Hey everyone, Dave here at East Rosebud Fly and Tackle in Billings, Montana. Today I'm going to tie for you the pink Pookie. This fly was actually developed by Dean Reiner of Livingston, Montana. He named it after his favorite fishing companion, his dog Pookie. His daughter, Dandy, now ties these flies, and she ties them by the thousands of dozens. It's an extremely popular grasshopper imitation here out west. Made in foam. It floats, of course, extremely well, and I say it's been a very, very good pattern. I'm going to be using a 3X long nymph hook. You can use any 3X long. The TMCO 5262 is a 2X long hook that certainly works well. The thread I'm using is UTC 140 red. Anytime you're tying foam, you want to use a minimum diameter of 6/0 or 140 denier. 210 is even better. If you use a thinner thread, when you tighten down on the foam, you'll cut it. So you want to use a heavier thread. And for a bigger fly like this, of course, the heavier thread is not an implement. I'm also going to be cutting the bodies. These are the two foam pieces we're using here for the underbody and the overwing, with one of Tony Thompson's River Roads Creation cutters. He makes a wide variety of cutters and individual sizes, also in packs, including all the sizes for a cutter. Tony's out of Stevensville, Montana, and I use his cutters quite a little bit. All right, let's get started. And Dandy, if you're watching, I hope I do your father's fly justice here. First of all, we're going to take our underbody foam. We're going to pierce it one hook gap back from the tip of the foam. Simply bring your hook back where it touches the pointed end of the foam and just pierce the foam right through its middle, like so, and then mount your hook. Alright, back to the thread. 2 eye lengths back. Wrap a nice smooth thread body. That's where UTC really shines. It's a nylon thread. It flattens very easily, so it's easy to make a nice smooth body. We're going to bring this back almost to the bend, cut off our tag end, and then bring this thread right back to the very bend of the hook. If you don't, your tail's going to end up being a little short. Alright, now we'll swing our underbody around here, and we're going to make right at the bend, because this determines our tail length. Right at the bend, we're going to kind of pinch the foam in the middle and make several tight wraps, like so.
I found you.
Now as we move forward, we're going to come up on top of the foam. We're going to move our thread forward to about where the hook point is, and then once again we're going to wrap around the foam underneath, kind of center it, pinch it on top of the hook, and give it several more firm wraps. Now as you can see, this foam wants to rotate around this hook, even though we do have a thread base on it. And I'll show you how to try to eliminate that. But anytime you're tying with foam, you want to make sure you have your Zap-A-Gap handy. So this fly has 3 sections on the bottom. And now we're going to come up again over the top of the foam so our thread wraps don't show. We're going to come up just about there. We want to make sure we have plenty of room for our head tie off. And again, come around the foam. Try to keep your thread wraps overlapping. Center your foam in the hook and give it several tight thread wraps. So now this is what the underside looks like right now. Once again, we're going to bring our thread over the top of the hook to right behind the eye, about an eye length back, and then we're going to tie our foam down. Well, in fact, here I'm going to leave it right where it's at. Alright, now we want to cut our foam off as close to the hook as we can. It's where you want your finest and your sharpest scissors. Reach in, move your thread out of the way. I'll move my hand out of the way here in just a second and nip this foam as close as you can to where your thread is hanging. Alright, now we'll go ahead and wrap over the tag end of this foam. Make a nice head on it. Alright, now for our overwing, we're using the same cutter. Now Dandy, who's tied tens of thousands of dozens of these, knows how to make this cut the right size the first time. I find that if I use the same size cutter, my overwing tends to be a little long. Of course, if I brought my cutter closer to the edge of the foam, I'd have the right length. So we're going to measure this. We actually want the foam over body to end up about the same length as the tail, but we are going to be bending this and tying it down. So we want to have a little bit of extra cushion for our underwing, our elk underwing, and tying it down. And I like to go ahead and take the square end and just round it a little bit so that my tie-in isn't quite so bulky. Now we're going to check it now and bring it back and see where we're at here. Okay. Before we proceed, you want to grab your Zap-A-Gap. I like the brush on for this application. You don't need a lot, but we want to brush over our thread base where the foam, the underbody is. Just a touch over the head. Don't get it in the eye like I just did. And always keep a rag handy. Now we're going to tie in our overbody with it facing, the round part facing over the eye of the hook. We're going to lay it on top of the foam here, just like so, and make several tight thread wraps. You see, as the Zap-A-Gap instantly bonds that back end towards the foam, which is what we want. Several thread wraps here. Now, before we tie in our elk hair underwing, we want to make sure that this thread is back to the beginning of our head. Bring your thread over the top of the foam body so that it's right in front of the abdomen. This way the thread does not show underneath, bringing it straight over the top like so. Now we're going to stack a little bit of, I use bull elk hair, deer hair can be used, just about anything you like. It doesn't take a lot of it. But of course you want to make sure you clean out all the underfur, all the short hairs. And then we'll stack it. This patch of hair happens to be fairly uneven, has some uneven tips, so I like to go ahead and pull out short hairs that I know will be at least as long as the wing that I'm going to tie in. Alright, so we'll gather our elk hair up. If you have any broken tips, pull them out because you can, and you want to make a nice looking fly. Again, we don't need a lot of hair here, but it helps to give the vision from below of a wing. And as you'll see, I'm going to spread it out a little bit so that it extends outside of the body a little. You want to measure our elk hair wing to about as long as the abdomen, right here. Pinch your tie-in. Now what I like to do, I put 2 soft wraps over the top of it. Then get your thumb and just press down on it right behind your thread wraps to kind of flatten it out. Then go ahead, bring your thread down tight, several wraps. While you're holding the wing backward, this is a good time to go ahead and trim the butts. Bring your scissors tips in. Trim those butts off as close as you can. One more wrap. Then once again, I use a little bit of Zap-A-Gap brush on, not only to help secure the hair butts, but also when I wrap this foam over, a little bit on the overwing. Now bring your overwing straight over the top. I like to try to grasp my elk hair a little bit to control it. Bring it right over the top, right in the middle of the fly. And then we're going to make several tight wraps. Zap-A-Gap is nice in that it adheres very quickly. Several tight wraps there. I'll hold that down. Start seeing the effect here. Now you can use a couple of different leg materials. You can use barred sexy floss, you can use centipede legs, and basically any color you want to. I'm going to go ahead and use the golden yellow medium-sized barred sexy floss. Again, you can bring your leg up from this side, trap it against the side of the hook, right there alongside, 2 or 3 firm wraps. I like to leave this leg long. As you'll see, it just makes it easier when I'm whip finishing. I don't have legs getting in the way. And then I'm going to bring another length of leg over on my side, and again, right in the middle of the body, a couple of firm wraps. And last but not least, and of course this is optional, but it's nice to have a little bright spot, a little indicator on the top. And if I failed to mention that, I'm sorry, this is all 2mm foam, 2mm pink foam, 2mm tan, and just a narrow little piece of 2mm orange foam. Of course, the indicator can be any color you like. We're just going to trap just a bit of it here over the same thread wraps. A couple of nice tight thread wraps. You could cut this as long as you like, about like that. Now we'll whip finish right over these same thread wraps. And again, this is the advantage of leaving your legs long. You have something to grab. Make sure your whip loop is big enough to encircle the entire fly. You can double whip finish it if you like for durability. And I like my front legs to be about hook shank length. Like so. Maybe a little bit shorter than that. And then the rear legs, I like to be right about the end of the abdomen, maybe a little bit longer than that. There you have it, folks, the pink Pookie, a very durable, very fishy fly, very popular out here during hopper season. So give it a try. As always, thanks for joining in. If you have any questions, any comments, please let us know.